Just to open our cast, I have an idea real quick. I kind of read this up. It's a little,
cool.
It's a little
Okay.
love song. Just to open our cast, kind of read this up. It's a little,
Cool.
It's a little
Okay.
love song. High in the halls of the library at Kennesaw, Becky Kraegel would podcast with her students. The ones who she failed, and the ones who she passed, and the one who liked Game of Thrones the most. The show had been gone for so very long. She couldn't withstand the long wait. She's thinking now that everyone will die, bringing Becky only sorrow and pain. She never wanted Game of Thrones to end. Never wanted Game of Thrones to end. Never wanted to end. Never wanted to end. Never wanted Game of Thrones to end. What do you think? What do you think?
That is the absolutely best thing a student has ever written for me.
Oh,
Ever.
thank you.
It's certainly the best song a student has ever written for me.
Oh, please, I'm just one man.
It just absolutely. But yes, that I was rolling on the floor laughing, which you can't see on the podcast.
I gotta say, we were talking a little bit beforehand. First of all, we're in a new studio, in case you're wondering from a visual medium of this podcast, is the fact that we are in conference room, which the amazing, illustrious Becky Kraegel is able to reserve for us for like the rest of the day. So we got limited time to talk about Game of Thrones.
That's right. I'm special. I get the teacher rooms.
But apparently, I am not special, because you told me right before we started podcasting that if I wasn't getting good grades in your class, you wouldn't be doing this with me.
Very true, because it's a bit problematic.
That's true, yeah.
And but I am confident, and I was very confident because of how much of the semester was over by the time that we talked about doing this, that you are going to do very well on the test Monday.
Yes, luckily.
And you are not going to put me in the difficult position of saying, yeah, Drew, you failed.
I would never do that.
Right.
One thing I have to tell you right now, though, is I've dedicated all the time to podcasting, and I have not studied at all, so I'm hoping just a little bit of lenience. I'm just kidding. But I would never joke about that, because I'm a professional like we all are.
That's
here.
right. And you really don't want me to get fired, or at least not before I put the grades in. So, yeah, let's not talk about leniency. Because,
Of course.
Yeah, it is a little, it wouldn't be unusual if you weren't my student anymore. No problem there. But, yeah, it's a little odd. But I could not pass up the opportunity to talk about Game of Thrones with somebody who loves it so much.
I agree. And my plan, long con, definitely isn't to blackmail you in 3 months when I failed this class. Okay, moving on. Today we talked even like 2 days ago, Wednesday, about, I haven't posted them yet, obviously, but Game of Thrones episode 69, which is A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We got talking about most of it, but we literally had to do it in between Professor Kragel's classes. So yeah, you emailed me like yesterday. We want to talk a little more, because we did skip a lot. There's so much in that episode, but what's your first thing you want to talk about?
I love the entire scene, if you put it all together, the big long scene basically that took place in the Great Hall in front of the fireplace. And it was broken up, but I have been looking at a few things since we talked and performed, or we did recorded part one of the podcast. And I have seen several people saying that they felt like, oh, this was just a setup episode, that they don't understand why so much time was spent on these personal conversations. And I thought it was amazing. It was probably, that whole hour or so was one of the most perfect hours of television I have ever seen. And so I'm surprised that other people didn't necessarily see it that way, who were ready to get into the battle, in other words.
And of course, I can kind of see that. I was pretty upset, like I mentioned last week, like a few days ago, that like it was a bit annoying how like the Aegon reveal, like last week and even the most recent week, is the fact that it was revealed, but we didn't exactly see their emotional response by either characters that are most important to that reveal. So we didn't see Danny's reaction like after processing it. We didn't see John's reaction. So like that's my main issue with like the kind of thing you mentioned other people being mad about there's not enough things happening, or like this is kind of a setup episode. There's a great meme where it's like when in the opener of the show where it says like, oh, brief nudity, obscene language, and only complete references to incest, as opposed to showing it or something, as opposed to like the brutal language warning. Like someone held up a card that said like, oh, well, let's get ready for a filler episode because no one's going to get beheaded brutally. So that way, the reason there's no violence thing in the beforehand of the show. But I do see that opinion, but I am glad that I think the main, like we said, like this is the Helm's Deep episode beforehand where we reaffirm the stakes and where all these characters are at in their journeys. Because like I'm glad we had this week / last week, aka Night of the Seven Kingdoms, because like for example Brienne, which we didn't get a lot of chance to talk about, like her storyline's wrapped up and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad we got this episode.
Yeah, I am too, and I do get what you're saying about the interruptions, and I agree with you about that it was a little annoying how many times people got interrupted right at an important moment, and it was a little bit sort of contrived. But overall, I really do think of all the TV shows I've ever loved and watched over and over from beginning to end, and everything, like my favorite shows from the past, like Justified and Breaking Bad and Deadwood, that of all of those shows, this was one of the most perfect hours ever. So to say that I'm a little annoyed that John didn't tell Danny earlier about them when he had the opportunity, but he was, he wouldn't have been John if he had dealt with it immediately, because he likes to brood and think about things for a really long time. And
very true.
They even sort of made fun of that when Samwell says to him, well, you haven't told her yet, which I thought was kind of very meta, because no, of course he hasn't. He's Jon Snow. He wouldn't have told her anything yet. So I that was annoying. And the Sansa and Dany conversation that was interrupted because Theon was there. So you're right. So I do agree with you about that. But I felt like some people that I've read comments or seen comments by thought that because the battle didn't start and they had to wait another week for the battle, and it wasn't a heavy action episode, that it was all very much the characters interacting with each other, that it wasn't really a very good episode. And for me, what the show has always been about is the characters, and then the action just added to the characters. And what I realized is some people apparently see it in the opposite way, that it's a lot of action and really cool battles and everything, and the characters are just kind of, that's okay.
It's a very interesting opinion, like that specific one, where it's like, it's kind of like an issue that The Walking Dead had for like many seasons, is because like when The Walking Dead first started, it's like, oh my gosh, they're like having this R-rated zombie gore fest like every episode, because like in The Walking Dead you can just like see intestines just fly out of people, but it's still on like normal TV and cable TV. Like like seeing someone's entrails get ripped out by Negan, that's not like something you see like in NCIS. It's a very good point, because like Walking Dead having that issue of like people wanting either the characters or like the zombie gore. And I think for someone like, if someone's like, oh, I'm so excited to see medieval battles, and they start watching the first season of Game of Thrones, they're going to be disappointed, and like in every show, like, Game of Thrones is huge because it has like $1 trillion budget for every episode. But like you said, this show is about the characters and their relationships with each other and with the world and their opinions and their growth and their journeys, not like full on Helm's Deep every week.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where a lot of fantasy, I know this is probably heresy, but for a lot of people, but a lot of fantasy reading and fantasy on film and TV, I don't like, because it is too much of just constant action and battles. And I always felt like Game of Thrones had a really good balance of that. And I still do, but you have to look at maybe a season as a whole to see that, and not episode by episode. And I don't think the battles and the deaths are nearly as impactful if you don't have a connection to the characters.
It's very interesting too, because like in a movie such as like Avengers Infinity War, like when you don't watch the movie just for the battles, you watch for the characters and the interactions, because like when the battles are happening, some people, like, my mom, for example, she doesn't want to see like the violence of How to Train Your Dragon 3. She just wants to see the emotional, like, and family parts, which is important, because like in like The Hobbit, for example, where like a lot of that, like even the first one was like that big scene of like CGI battles fighting each other, and like all the, like the third one completely, like it's hard to make someone emotionally connect like with like full CGI orcs throwing another orc into a fiery furnace. Like we watch this show to connect with people, and like and it's good that they have like kind of like almost one battle per season, which is almost like, kind of the first few seasons, but like it's all about the emotional toll that it takes on people. It's not about seeing the spectacle. Like some episodes are all like the loot train attack and all that kind of stuff, but it's all about emotional spectacle. It's about like, it's like plot resonance and like what it does to people, because like war is terrible. Like I want to see the fight tomorrow because I want to see what happens, but war is hell, and that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, and I think the show has been, although of course it's over the top because it's an expensive television show, but I think it hasn't been afraid to show that sometimes people die, and even the people who you're used to seeing survive in stories, that's not realistic. And so it seems very bizarre to call this show realistic, but in that way, I think that it has been that Robb Stark does not survive and win the battle and take the Iron Throne, for example, even though he was a very sympathetic character. And then the reason that he doesn't, basically the reason that doesn't happen for him is because he makes some dumb decisions and he falls in love with the wrong woman. And to me, that's very Shakespearean, and more so than medieval, So I really like that about it. But I know that there are people who just love spectacle and just probably want to fast forward through the emotional connection moments.
Because I think of Robb not too highly now, looking back, because he was kind of unwise getting married during a time of war. But like the whole point of all this show, like with Jaime, with all these characters, that like they're human, they're fallible, they make mistakes. And Robb made probably the worst like mistakes, like what he could do as a king, because like marrying Talisa was a really bad idea because it ruined the Frey alliance, and like everyone got mad. And like that great line, Karstark, I believe, he said to him like, "I think you lost the war the day you married her." But
and
like,
it was true. That was true.
But he's human, like this. That's just life. And like so, like in the Battle of the Bastards in end of season 6, like when Jon like had that awesome one shot of like him fighting through the battle, and just like he does the classic Saving Private Ryan thing of like, "Go tell Tormund," and the guy gets hit with an arrow. Like there's times when like Jon like would kneel down, like when arrows start flying, like they're just missing by an inch. Like that's war sometimes. But like if that happens next episode and Tormund takes an arrow to both eyes or something, like that's life, man, and like that will happen.
Yeah, and it's going to happen, and I think it's going to be more emotional because of it. And I think that when you said earlier that that's Brienne's story, I think, yep, that's Brienne's story.
It's kind of wrapped up.
Right, it's over for Brienne. And I wouldn't be surprised if she's the first death, I don't think she will survive Sunday night.
Very possible. I bet like, we're going to be devastated this Sunday, and then like 5 hours later, when the title of the episode is released, it's going to be called "The Shortest Lived Nights of the Seven Kingdoms."
Right, exactly. So yeah, I think that particularly for her, that was such an amazing moment, and she really achieved everything now in her life that she wanted to, and that makes the fact that she is facing her imminent death even harder to absorb. And it makes it so painful, but that seems the sort of unpredictability of things seems to be one of the themes of this show, the unpredictability of life, and how sometimes things that you aren't expecting just happen. And I really think that with her especially, like her journey has come to, my watch has ended in a way. Her journey has ended, and that's it for her. But I am the worst at predicting what's going to happen on TV shows. I'm horrible at it. So probably everything I say, you can reverse it and know what's going to happen. Yeah,
because like it's the kind of scary thing, because it's that classic thing of like Walking Dead style or anything else, any other TV show where like, where a character's main story kind of wraps up. Like that's when like this is a symbol of like it's like Grey Worm and Messana, like their whole struggle has been like becoming slaves to becoming free people. So like when they're like, hey, we're definitely gonna, hey, do you want to have a long life together and grow old? She's like, yes, I absolutely do. Like their storylines are over. It's kind of like the last thing they can say to each other before they die, because like.
Yeah, exactly, because it's over for them. I don't feel real good about that beach and being in their future.
In Noth.
Right.
You don't see them like sipping in a coconut, just hanging out together, being all happy, and maybe adopt a few kids, adopt those white kids who are racist in Winterfell.
The racist kids, and show them that they shouldn't be racist. No. Which, and I have to admit, in the last podcast, I made a mistake. I said I thought one of those little girls was the imitation Shireen, the Shireen knockoff, and she was not, because I watched it again. And you're absolutely right. But I had already seen it 3 times then, and I kept looking, but I hadn't frozen the screen before. And also, I can't see. But it was definitely not her, so you were right. But I think that moment between those 2 characters, that was a little bit more of what you expect to see in a plot. You know, it's like the show about, or the TV or the movie about 2 cops who one of them's about to retire, you know, and so he's not going to make it.
I'm going to move to the beach and I'm going to get a Mai Tai every day, just like my old friend Jimmy wanted to.
So I think that moment was a bit more contrived to just give fans a final moment with those 2. I think were fan favorites back when they were really integral to the story. I'm not sure that they've sort of lost track of those 2. They haven't been in a big part of the story for a while, and I think maybe that was just the last moment for the people who I'm sure shipped them really hard. But the other moments like between Tyrion and Jaime, and between Sam and Jon, and even between Beric and the Hound, and then Arya and the Hound, and Arya and the Hound and Beric. All of those I thought were really things that moved the story forward in a way where, like we were saying last week, that a lot of people didn't get to have their conversations after reuniting.
Like you know, Brienne and Pod didn't get a line in there, and like.
Yeah.
So it's such a big cast, obviously, but you know, this week was good for. Like, if we, like, was able to address, like, if we had, like, all the talks that happened, like, on a map, it'd be, like, an interconnecting web of, like, Ari talks to this person talks to that person, and that person talks to that person. But, like, yeah, it's definitely a good episode for that.
Yeah, so I think that those moments, a lot of them were just things they didn't have time for in the first episode, and also just laying this emotional groundwork so that when the battle begins, which apparently they're just going to hit the ground running with it in this week's episode. They don't have to do any setup for it because they've already done it. But it's just going to make that emotional impact, you know, so strong. I mean, even Jorah got his moment where he got to show that he's the good person that we always knew that Jorah was anyway. It's never been in question.
Yeah.
But he was able to say, oh, Khaleesi, and he called her Khaleesi, which he hasn't done in a while.
Yeah.
And so that was like, I know you love him. I love one of the first times we talked about the show, you did a really great impression of him.
Khaleesi.
Yes, Khaleesi. I love you, Khaleesi.
His voice is so weird. It's
that was my vampire Jorah. I love you, Khaleesi.
Number 3.
That's right. My count.
Number 2.
That's right. I am Jorah. I love you, Khaleesi. But yeah, because he did get to be kind of just a sad, lovelorn kind of guy. And, you know, the grayscale plot was pretty cool, but he hasn't had a whole lot to do. And so he had his little moment where he was able to show that he got over his jealousy of Tyrion. And he's the one, of course, who told Dany to go talk to Sansa, too. And
did he?
Well, he says to her, he gives her the advice about Tyrion to forgive Tyrion. He's a good man, and he's been a good hand. And then he says, and if I could, Your Grace, let me give you one other piece of advice. And then they cut away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but the very next time we see her is when she's going in to talk to Sansa.
Yeah. Man, so anything else you wanted to kind of address the show in this episode? We didn't really address, we addressed a little bit like the talk of Sansa and Dany, but I love that talk. It was like you could cut the tension with a knife. Sophie Turner, I love her acting because like if you just look at her face, like she just has like like the face and glazed over eyes of like, you are my enemy, you know, like
Right.
that's the kind of look she would give like Cersei in like season 2, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it's amazing how strong she's become, right?
it's, I mean, also great. She had a great outfit too. It's like almost like a Cersei thing because it's like it was like wraps like really thick leather, but like had like a weird chain at the bottom.
Yes, that chain is really interesting, and yeah, she has definitely grown into a badass woman. She is now, and I really though wondered, and I started yelling at the screen last time I watched it because
You can pull up your mic a little bit if you
okay,
want.
sorry, okay.
All good.
Because I wanted her to not say that stuff about the North. I wanted her to let it go for 5 minutes, okay? Like
we keep saying, like it's the apocalypse.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense within her character because, like, you know, it's something you need to face and they need to address. But like don't make an enemy of Dany because Dany's been known to burn people alive.
Burn people who are her enemies. And then I thought, well, Dany is supposed to be the queen and supposed to be able to deal with these situations. Why didn't Dany say, we'll talk about it after this battle? But I think that by wanting that to happen, by either wanting Sansa to not bring it up or wanting Dany to respond that way, I'm just wanting them to be different characters than they are. And so that's not going to happen. But I just wanted to say, no, stop. Her hand is on your hand. You're getting along. I love Dany's line about the one other man she trusted in her whole life besides Jon was someone taller.
Yeah, Khal Drogo.
Right. And so taller than Jon. And that was a callback to like when when Tyrion, I think, was talking about how Dany was talking about Jon Snow the same way she had talked about Dario.
Drogo.
But Dario, who was the guy who
Dario
was the second
Naharis.
son? Dario Naharis. And Jorah and Tyrion said to her, well, you're talking about those men. Those are all men who loved you. And she said, oh, well, Jon Snow is too small for me.
Yeah, was that even season 7? Yeah, I remember her saying something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think it was at the beginning of 7 because I think it was in the throne room at Dragonstone.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Because at least like we kind of say before, like at least these characters have always been consistent with who they are and who they've like become and changed. And like maybe we can theorize about now, but like for Dany's future coming up here, like we said in our first podcast ever, such a long time ago, like 2 weeks ago.
Long ago.
Like she has never had a compromise in her life ever, because I mentioned this before, but like, you know, she'll be like, oh, Slaver's Bay, I'll definitely end slavery in 7 years. Oh wait, you guys have 3 fully grown dragons, then burns them all alive. Like the North and people, it's different. It's weird and different for her like to actually kind of like Jon and like respect Sansa. You know, like she didn't respect the dirty Arab with the all the guys in Essos who like had the goatees and were like evil slavers. Like she didn't respect the guys she burnt alive, like many of them. So like
no, and she should have respected some of those, I think. But I'm not upset that she didn't respect the slavers, but the Tarly thing bothers me a little bit, even though Samwell's dad was
say it.
It was a dick. It was a dick. And his brother was named Dickon, but should not have been because he was pretty nice.
Yes.
But
he should have been Dick off.
Oh God. Okay. So what am I doing here? But Dany, I mean, that just shows she's young and she doesn't always make the best decisions. But you're right. When somebody is in a position where people are afraid to say the truth to them and they can make all the decisions, that's not great. Although, you know, Tyrion tried to tell her not to burn the Tarlys. And it does worry me that, like you said, she hasn't had to compromise really since her brother died. And, you know, she probably thinks, well, I compromised enough to last my whole lifetime. Thank you very much. And she would be right. But you can't be a good ruler unless you're willing to compromise sometimes.
Yeah, and of course I get it from her perspective. Like my whole goal in my life has been the Iron Throne, and like the ruler of the six kingdoms doesn't sound as good as the 7, because like the North wanted to be its own independent country. Like I looked like in the books, in like Maester Luwin, or the first Maester of Winterfell, who got stabbed by like that Ironborn. Luwin, maybe?
Lewin, yeah.
Paul Kelly,
Yes.
that's his name, I think.
Yes.
Like he said, like maybe in the books, I believe that like before the time of like the Iron Throne and the kings, of like there used to be just 7 kingdoms, and they were like constantly at war because they were separate entities, like England style or.
Right. That's what it reminds me of very much.
So like
yeah.
the Iron Throne is what kind of keeps them together and keeps like any semblance of peace. Because it doesn't make sense. Like if you have like 7 separate states of like people groups, like it doesn't make sense for them to be at war more often than like if there was one king on the Iron Throne and there's two enemy groups. You know what I mean?
Right, somebody to hold everything together. And I do remember in the early seasons, for 1 or 2, and Joffrey brought this up, that even though the 7 kingdoms were united, they never had a standing army. As you know, that's why they had to have bannermen and call in people to fight. And Joffrey wanted like a whole standing army. And I think that's one of the things a lot of the 7 kingdoms resisted. So they were willing to come together under one king, but they still wanted to basically run things themselves, especially the North.
And we can we can argue as much as we want to about like how it's a bad system of government, because it does make sense. Like imagine if our president, like whatever your opinions are about him, but he wanted to rally everyone against North Korea. Like what if Georgia was like, oh, we're a separate entity, so we won't support you because we're just your bannermen, so you can't tell us what to do. Like we could, like Donald Trump has the power to get Georgia's troops because like we're all one nation. It's not like bannermen, because the whole idea of bannermen, because like Cersei even says to Joffrey in that scene, like back in season 1, that like, well, we have a standing army in the North. Like, who do you think the North is going to follow? The people who lead them, which is like Ned Stark, or they're going to follow the king of King's Landing 100,000 miles away?
Right, and that is the problem with trying to rule countries and territories when you're far away from them, as if we want to go back to the Roman Empire, as they discovered, right?
They got too spread out thin and like all crumbled down.
And people don't care. It's sort of like Hawaii now. It's a state, but they do whatever they want mostly.
Yeah,
because they're so far away from everything.
And when like Britain conquered like the colonials and like America wanted its freedom, because like, hey, you guys are across the pond from us.
Exactly, right. It's hard for you to get over and do anything about it, so we're going to do what we want.
So, like, we can talk about this forever, because one thing we can obviously agree on, which I think even, like, Tyrion at this point, or Varys, after seeing so much in their lives of kings and crazy kings and idiot kings, like, we need a new system of government needs to be set in place. So can we talk about, maybe theorize, like Dany always talks about breaking the wheel, but to me that always sounded like, oh, Lannisters are on top, and then Baratheons are on top, and then Starks are on top, and on it goes, crushing everybody. I'm not going to, like, fix the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel. So that like, the definition of breaking that thing she just said would not to be like, oh, I'm going to break the wheel by owning the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel by giving the power to all the people. Like, that's what breaking the
right. But then she wants to
means.
make sure she's still going to rule the North.
Yeah.
Too. Right.
So any of the theories about, like, where do you think, like, this kind of all this politics and stuff is headed? Like, maybe Jon will unite everybody, and then after he defeats Cersei, they decide to make it a democracy where, like, every kingdom has a representative, and it becomes almost like Rome, maybe a little bit better than Rome, but do you have any theory?
With the representatives coming from the different areas and they all get a vote and everything, that would be ideal. It's not going to happen, but that would be sort of the ideal place I would want it to end up, is with the 2 of them running things. And then, of course, you always have the problem with whoever the offspring are. Maybe.
Exactly. So, like, but do you really think that's, like, a democracy will not happen at all, like, ever? Like, at
Westeros?
At the end of the series?
No, I don't think so.
But, like, Tyrion's even referenced, like, the Night's Watch, like, vote for their own people, and so did the Ironborn. The Ironborn vote, so it's kind of a democracy.
True.
But, I mean, like, because, like, Varys says, like, nothing lasts, but, like, it's cool to have a nice king, but then you have terrible kings. So, like, you need,
you don't control that if you don't, if it's just a system where the heir is the heir to the throne, where the children are the heirs to the throne, then you can't control if the children are crazy or horrible.
Exactly. But so, like, I think it's got to happen, or otherwise, like, they're just going to be like Varys saying, like, well, this is never going to end. Or Tyrion, I expect, like, 3 episodes from now, after they kill Cersei, and Dany is like, oh yeah, I'm the queen that was promised. I did it. Like, Tyrion will be like, hey, like, after you die, who knows if, like, only like 2 generations from now, like, there's gonna be another uprising and stuff. Like, I really hope there's going to be a scene of Tyrion or Varys or Jon being like, nothing's different if you're not different. Like, remember that talk in season 7 where Jon talked to Dany like, if you decide to fly your dragons and burn them, like you say you're different, but you're not.
You're not different.
But then she decided to, oh, well, that's pretty good advice, Jon. I'm going to go burn some people alive. Excuse me.
I'm going to go burn some people. So.
That's good advice, Dany. Like, listen to something here.
I don't know. I guess, for one thing, in terms of the series, I'm not very hopeful for a happy ending. That's one thing. I know. I'm sorry. I want to be hopeful. Like I said, I'm wrong. I'm always wrong. So just know that I'm wrong about this, and it will be the opposite. But I think also just throughout history that has happened. I mean, the history of England is basically this whole thing with messing up whoever is going to be heir to the throne, right? If going back for years and years. And it created civil wars. It created wars between England and France and, England and everybody. And that was just the history for many years because of that system of monarchy. And I don't know, I thought it was weird. Here's one thing that I think maybe gives me...
In Westeros, or the system of government?
In Westeros, right. Remember, there was what I thought was a very bizarre conversation between Tyrion and Dany when he was saying to her, oh, but you can't have children, so who's going to be your heir? And she said, well, worry about my heir after I conquer the 7 kingdoms. And I thought, well, yeah, it is kind of a weird thing for him to worry about now.
And like, Dany being like kind of sensitive / like kind of paranoid at this point, like, so you're preparing for me to die, are you, Tyrion? How dare you?
Yeah, I thought that was ridiculous.
Because like she's not wearing any armor on Drogon and stuff, so she's like, he's heir proof, but she's not.
Yeah.
And just like the idea that like she's not even choosing to think about it because of her pride, I guess, feminine toxicity, if you ask me, toxicity, whatever that word is. But like, she hasn't thought these things through of like, if she dies, like, what is Tyrion gonna lead the Unsullied? Like I think if Dany dies at Thrak, you're just gonna be like, okay, we're gonna go kill and rape some people. See you later, because they only respect her. Like,
oh well, yeah, and that is often a problem with taking over a country, or where people are like, okay, I can win this war, but I have no idea what I'm gonna do once I win it. That's very much going on with her. But I also thought it was weird that he would be pushing her on that, and it made me, I don't know if that was just a weird little thing that doesn't have any meaning. It's hard to tell with this show. Is it going to matter later or not?
And like, because it's obviously something like you bring up in Act 1 and it comes back up in Act 3.
Right.
But like, that's kind of my opinion on everything, that like, I think eventually, like after Jon dies, after Dany dies, something like, to break the wheel, like she keeps saying, she's going to have to do something new. So that's just my opinion. Do you have any more thoughts about the politics or what might happen?
Oh, no, because I wish I did, and I do wish I'm going to have to think more and try to be more hopeful about it, I think.
Yeah, because we got to get past this battle, of course.
Right. Yes, we have to get past this battle, and then we'll worry about who the heir is. Yeah, but there's no guarantee, even if you have an heir, like I said, that they're not going to be crazy.
Yeah, and even so, like, if Dany believes that what the witch said, like she can't have children, then that's a biggie for her dynasty, the Targaryen dynasty in general.
Right. But I'm with Jon when he told her, asked her why she thought that woman was a reliable source.
Yeah, that was kind of a funny moment, but like,
yeah,
I think that wraps up at least that talk about like politics and stuff. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about this episode?
I want to talk about Tormund Giantsbane. Yeah. I love him. I only have one Funko Pop from Game of Thrones, and it's Tormund.
Yeah. We're all going to die. But at least we die together.
Is the big woman still here? First thing after he tackles Jon.
Like, when you first met him, like, he was just like a full man beard, just huge guy. And, like, just to see him, like, the beard just makes him funnier now, Like, his eyes are so, like, the actor himself is just a funny guy in real life. Like, he's so, like... He's got, like, at least my favorite character in the show, probably. Like, he's, like, just all the memes, and, like, he's even made, like, little, like, real-life videos of himself, like, with, like a Tormund action figure, like, kissing a Bran. He's like, hello, Brienne. Like, he's holding the two toys up together like they're Toy Story or something. Like, he's one of my favorite characters. Like, he explained his backstory, his origin, because he was jealous of...
right, which was great. Yeah, so you're
jealous
saying,
of Jaime.
Yeah, I've got this great backstory. What does he have? All he did was kill a king. And I love how he calls him King Killer. That's what they call you, right? And James, no, it's King Slayer. I imagine is what he was thinking. He was like, I guess some do, but they just don't know what to make of him. But I think he's one of my favorite characters because everything he says, he doesn't say a lot, and he's not in a lot of episodes, but everything he says is perfect. Like when they're going out to catch the white, and he says, he's talking about Brienne and that they're going to have giant babies. And it's just so funny. And the interactions then that he has with her later. And as soon as he tackles John, asking him, like I said, is the big woman still here? And I just really think that he's great, and he's got such an amazing personality that comes through. And
yeah,
I love Tormund.
I think it was funny too because there's the classic one horn blown for all the writers coming back from Castle Black and House Umber or whatever, and this music was swelling, but the music just stopped when Tormund tackled John.
I know.
It literally stopped. His presence is so good. David, the Double D's said they laugh every time they hear the Giantsbane story.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely great, and he was drinking that horrible
Giant's
fermented, out of his horn because they mentioned before.
He I think drinks goat milk, goat's milk or something.
Right. But it's fermented, and John had commented, I think, in that time he spent with the wildlings, that nasty stuff that they drink. So it is beer. It's like goat's milk beer, like.
It's not Dornish red wine here, yeah.
No, it's not. And that came out too when Tyrion was talking about the wine they had there, and he was saying, I don't remember exactly what he said, but that it was not. It's obviously it's not used to what the Lannisters are used to, what they have up there. But yeah, Tormund I thought was great in this episode and in the one before too. I just think everything he says could be a meme or is just absolutely perfect. And much like that's how I feel about the Hound, really. He doesn't say a lot most of the time, but most of what he says is very entertaining. And I loved his threatening of Beric when he and Arya.
Thoros isn't here anymore, so you are getting a sermon. The lower light's gonna question why they brought you back 19 times before I throw you over this effing wall
and kill you. So and then even Beric had to sort of laugh at that.
I think with someone like Beric, who's been a side character whose main plot has basically only been to look cool for Fire Sword and set up the fact that people can be brought back from the dead for Jon Snow 3 seasons later after he was introduced,
Right.
But I think like I mentioned a few days ago, Clegane Bowl has to happen.
Yes.
Maybe the Hound dies and Beric prays and brings him back to life from Lord of Light. Because I've heard a lot of podcasters talk about this. It would be nice to know what these religions and gods actually are. I mean, I know it's not one of our biggest questions. The biggest question right now, of course, is the whole Dany Targaryen reveal struggle, all that kind of stuff. But for in a show like Nightfall, on AMC or whatever, or that features talking about the Crusades, people are oh, we're doing this for God and country, and it's yeah, it's a nice sentiment, but when a god in a world like Game of Thrones has brought someone back from the dead, that's a big deal. That proves that a god exists in this world. Right. So it would be nice to get some kind of definition, or if Melisandre comes back, sees the series finale, it's oh, I've planned to die in this world, but before I do, Jon Snow, here is my face, and she takes off her face, and she's the Lord of Light. What? She's a goddess the whole time.
She was the Lord of Light always.
But how do you feel about that whole god? Because it's obviously over the course of the show, magic has been revealed, the power of at least a god. Maybe not because the old gods are kind of like Bran. Is the Lord of Light a new god?
Yes, the Lord of Light is one of the new gods.
We think because the old gods are the old original 7, who are
the
the faith militant.
7, and then.
Well, I thought the 7 were the newer gods, and the old gods were in the weirwood trees.
Oh, that's right. The oldest gods are in who the North worships in the weirwood trees. That's exactly right.
Did you ever think if this ever is, do you ever think this late in the game, are you considering these kind of religious things that should be kind of addressed? Because I'd be okay if it's the mystery is still there by the end of the series, but it would be nice to know if John lied about when he was dead and he actually met the Lord of Light on the silver doorsteps of heaven or something, you know? Like, I've always kind of wanted an explanation for that.
I think that would be kind of strange because I don't know that he would ever, John is not capable of lying even when it would work better for him or everybody else. But, so do you think Melisandre, when she left, certainly left us with the idea that she would be back? So you're right. That may become very important. And if Beric is just going to get killed now, first thing or early on in this battle, then why was he brought back all of these times? And maybe he has fulfilled his destiny now. Maybe his destiny was to go and get the white and be involved in that whole situation. But it seems like maybe there's something else for him to do.
The Hound or Beric?
Beric, yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome. Is if like Beric resurrects the Hound, and then the Hound and Clegane Ball, like before he's about to fight, like kill his brother and stuff, like he like ignites a sword of fire because he's been resurrected, so that makes him a Lord Light follower. He's got a flaming sword in Clegane Ball 2019.
But the mountain has also been resurrected. I think we're supposed to believe
With
by Qyburn.
Semi-magic,
With
dark
right
magic?
with some sort of dark arts. So it's not always good. But I think Melisandre is coming back. So maybe that will answer this question. And if the Lord of Light really is the Lord of Light, then somehow that's going to help them defeat the dead, even if a lot of people die.
Because like Melisandre has had like her destiny. She said to Stannis at one point, where like in like the end of season 4, because Stannis helped Jon fight all the wildlings when he arrived and rocked up with like Davos, and that's why they were at the wall for like some of season 5. Because like Melisandre's like, Melisandre kind of like kind of previewed Stannis the thought of like, oh yes, you are the Azor Ahai. We will win the 7 kingdoms, then we will fight back the darkness beyond the wall. Like, she didn't say those words exactly, but I remember in previous seasons, like, the army of the dead is marching, like, maybe it's kind of implied to, like, whatever the Lord of Light doesn't want snow to happen because he's the Lord of Light. So, like, they did mention that, though. Like, she definitely did say, like, you must defend, like, you ever remember that happening?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And then
the Lord of Light, who is like a newer / the only god, is going to fight the powers of the old gods, which is like the 3-eyed raven or the Night King. So I thought that and obviously it's a classic fire and ice thing. So that's why I always thought that was kind of a inevitability too.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it plays right into the fire and ice thing, and then But the Azor Ahai has not really been a big part of the show. Like, that may be the only time it was ever mentioned, but it sure is a big part of the books.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like it's a prophecy that like is kind of ancient, is almost like equivalent to our world of like, Jesus is going to come back eventually in this world. Like, we don't know if it's going to happen. Like, some people believe that with their faith, obviously, but like in this world, like the idea of the Azor Ahai is a prophecy that will eventually happen. But, Melisandre's brought it up to Dany, and she's like, oh, it sounds like me. It sounds perfect.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. And that's when somebody had to say to Dany, Missandei had to say to
Missandei, yeah.
Missandei, sorry.
Missandei
had to say to Dany,
actually,
this could mean a male or a female. It could be it's the feminine gender or
because
the
like
male
because like a dragon in Volantis, what's the word, in Valyrian.
High Valyrian.
That like it's a dragon is like sexless because they're hermaphrodites or whatever.
Yes. So this is and it reminded me of learning Latin, where nouns have gender. Nouns are neutral, feminine, or masculine, and it doesn't make any sense what the noun is. It just is that gender in the language. So it was a word like that, but I wonder if that was just thrown in for the viewers. So a lot of this,
and book readers too, because like that some book readers are like, well, actually, High Volantis, because like then the double D's like,
oh no,
the double D's confirm the fact that that's true.
Okay. So I just really think that is a whole lot to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a whole direction for the story to go.
And like 4 episodes left. Like unless like Bran's like rides on like a Lord of Light dragon that's made of fire or something like.
Yes. So, but as far as we know, there are no dragons. Well, are no dragons in the crypts at Winterfell. Right?
That we know of.
So that's really
Ghost
a good
dragons?
question. Maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think they ever lived up north. And as Danny pointed out, they don't like the north.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
I think it's enough talk for at least the gods and stuff. But what do
Yes.
you think? There's also another ancient prophecy that's kind of in the books that exists on the TV show, but a little less capacity, which is I'll explain right now. So in the beginning of season 4, I believe, little girl Cersei met like a evil witch, and she was like, "You will have three. You will be queen. You will have 3 children. Like gold will be their bonnets when they're babies, and the gold will be their shrouds when they're dead. Like you'll be replaced by a younger version of you, or like
Yes,
a
yes.
more beautiful woman." So like, and also, but like, then it just ends there, like that scene. But like in the books, like you will be in like one of the lines is like, and you will be strangled by your Ahsoka High or whatever kind of Bravosi word that is, and it translates to little brother.
Oh,
So, like, that-
really? I didn't know that part of
That
it.
reveals a lot more in the books because like Cersei, that's why another reason for Cersei to hate Tyrion so much, you know, along with the fact that he killed his mother, his father, but also like that could be translated to Jaime killing her because like as we know Cersei is a twin, but she was
Right,
born
we don't
first.
know who was born first.
No, Cersei was born first.
Cersei was born first. Okay,
Minutes
so
apart, I think.
okay, I did not know about that, and I did think it was interesting that it has appeared that the witch's prophecy has come true, and that would mean that Cersei cannot give birth to a fourth child because she said you will have 3 and they will all die before you.
What if her baby is the queen that will replace her? What? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Is she pregnant? We don't know.
We don't know anything. But yeah, that whole pregnancy thing. I mean, Jaime said to Tyrion, "Oh yes, it's true." But all Jaime has to go on is what Cersei told him, and Tyrion has just pointed out, or Jaime just pointed out that she has fooled him as well. So that's really weird, though. I didn't know about that. You'll be strangled by your younger brother.
Yeah, and of course we said plot armor. So if you have, do you have anything else we can talk about? Because I thought a little game we could play at the end here, in case you.
No, I'm ready for a game.
Awesome. Okay, so I have a list on my original notes here of like basically all the main characters. So you have to say, so I'm going to say a person's name, and then we'll count to 3, and then we'll say if they're going to die or not. So we say yes or no. Okay, so ready?
Okay.
Arya survives. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yes. The Hound. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Tormund. 1, 2, 3. No. Samwell Tarly. 1, 2, 3. Yes. I don't know. Gilly. 1, 2, 3. No. No way she lives. I'm sorry, Gilly. You're in the crypt. It's not safe
Yeah, I'm
there.
sorry, Samuel. You want Samuel to live and Gilly to die? That would suck.
Yeah, that would stink. Sir Davos. 1, 2, 3. No. He's had a long life of nice long fingerless tip life. You know what I mean?
Yes, he has.
He's been through a lot of battles. I mean, I wouldn't be like he doesn't have like Shireen to raise as his own child anymore. Like unfortunately, like
And he lost his son.
Mathos. I love that name. He got really original there. Davos
Right,
and Mathos.
Yes, right.
The red shirt that Davos talked to. 1, 2, 3. No, he's a
No.
red shirt. Unless he becomes the king and we were wrong. Tyrion. 1, 2, 3. Yes?
I cheated because, okay, I really want to say maybe. I'm not
Oh, you can't say
sure.
maybe?
If I have to say that, I'm going to say no. But I told you I have a very negative outlook about this
Yeah,
whole
but
thing.
I get that.
But I'm going to have to say no.
But the Hound will survive.
Yes, because Clegane.
Clegane Bowl.
Right, right.
1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry. Jamie. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
No.
Yes. He has to face
No.
Cersei.
Maybe, but I don't feel as strongly about that as I feel about the Clegane Bowl because I think Arya can totally face Cersei and it will have
But you got
the same resonance.
But Willa though, because like she's talked to Cersei, or like she's never even had a conversation with Cersei. I feel like it'd be awesome if like maybe Sansa kills her. I don't know, but like for like
That would be good.
because I think of
That'd
like
be
the best
good.
person to kill Cersei, like
It's Jamie, right?
and like the best person to kill like Ramsay Bolton. That was Sansa because
Right, yeah, that was
God knows
perfect.
she deserved it. So like
Right.
that was perfect. So like it's kind of hard because it's like since she is like the last villain that we all hate or just so annoyed at. Like it's kind of fun to like which one of these heroes is going to call dibs to stab her in the back, you know?
I know that it would be perfect for it to be Jamie, but remember
Shakespearean kind of ending.
How many times this story has not done the expected thing?
Yeah, I don't know. Bran, 1, 2, 3,
yes.
no.
Really? But if he dies, isn't that the end of everything?
We still have the Citadel. I don't know. Like, I'm hoping Sam was wrong with his whole like Dr. Seuss. Like, I guess if we all die, we forget who we
It's
are.
just we have no memory anymore.
We have the Citadel. I mean, Bran's like too OP though. He can just see like, all right, like if he's alive in episode 5, he's like, okay, here, John, I can see exactly into Cersei's war council with my X-ray vision. Here's her plan exactly. Here's how you can defeat him. And John's like, oh crap, this is easy. Oh, thanks, Bran.
Yeah, the whole Bran thing, you know, I'm not Bran.
He's Dr. Bran Hatton.
Oh,
because he can do anything. He has no attachment to human life.
Yeah, I don't know.
No way
I
he
said
survives.
I was going to say that. I don't think he survives, but I think well, let's see. I should say this. I didn't think he would survive until last week's episode, and he said that the Night King wants to kill me so that he can have the really long night, the forever night, which implies,
I am the night.
Which implies that if Bran dies, the Night King wins. So you can't have it both ways.
I guess so. I just imagine like Bran going out with like a telepathic Magneto Professor X battle and just implodes Night King or something. I don't know.
Well, right.
Like,
yes. Well, that could be.
Or like he wargs in the Night King like 50 years ago and makes him kill himself. I don't know.
Something crazy like that. But I didn't mean like that Bran's body necessarily survives.
Ooh.
I guess what
he
I'm
lives
thinking
in a crow.
is that right, that somehow, but some essence of Bran lives.
He
is what
phases
I'm thinking.
into little Sam and becomes a three-eyed raven.
Maybe.
Nice. But by the way, how do you think Bran gets around on his wheelchair? Like, that's a really thick wheelchair to do on your own.
Yes, it is. And
I
it
think
would not be possible.
I think he wargs and like calls the 80 crows to fly in and push him, or
you can. Hello, crows! You come and move me.
or like he wargs into Ghost and makes him pull him like a sled.
Yeah, they should have hooked Ghost up and made it.
And Ghost was back, my favorite character.
Better than poor Mira having to drag him the way she did. That was terrible.
Sansa, ready? Sansa, 1, 2, 3. Yes, definitely. But I think like I talked to my sister about this a while ago. But like in this show, where like we always assume people on the front lines are going to die first. You know, people like Jon, people like Tormund. But, like, for the Night King who's going to play dirty and could just have zombies infiltrate this castle, like, she could get stabbed. I don't know.
Right.
Pod the Rod. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
No.
Pod the Rod. He can't die.
Yes, he can.
He's got too many ladies to please back in King's Landing.
No. He's perfect to die. You're underestimating how much they want to break our hearts.
You can never underestimate the Rod. That's what I always say.
Okay.
I
hope you're right. I hope he lives on. We need a spinoff.
Yes.
We need a spinoff.
It would be called
Pod the Rod.
Rod in the City.
There you go. That would be great.
Varys, the spider. 1, 2, 3.
No.
Dead. Because
Very dead.
Because Melisandre had
Yes.
predicted that you'll die,
Yes.
or maybe she'll come back just to kill Varys, so she'll be right.
Right. Well, right.
Davos would be like Davos would be talking to Varys like, how you doing, Varys? Like, I'm doing great. Melisandre told me that I would die, and Davos is like, oh yeah, that lady's always wrong. And then Melisandre comes back and just hits him with a frying pan, like, I was right. I'm back.
She has frequently been wrong. That is true. She has frequently been wrong.
Jon Snow is the new Azor Ahai, and Davos is like, wasn't that Stannis? She's like, I need something to do. I'm here.
Yeah, Davos called her out.
Jorah Mormont. 1, 2, 3. No way. Oh, sorry, Jorah. Lyanna Mormont. 1, 2, 3. Yes. No. What?
Sorry. It would be so painful when she dies.
I just love that moment when she was talking to Jorah, and she's like, "I'm gonna fight because it's my land too." And like when she like snaps her fingers and like all of her like men fall over,
Right,
like
yes.
I'm like, the fear of God is in these men constantly. Like if they mess up, they're gonna lose like at least half a hand to her or their dignity.
Yeah, exactly. I have loved every second, and there've probably been, what has she had on the show, like 2 minutes
Like 10,
tops
like
through the whole
5
thing?
minutes tops. Yeah.
Every moment with her on the screen, I have enjoyed, but I think that's part of the reason she goes.
Yeah, I feel like some people say like, "Oh, this is just like she's talking like if she was like a writer for this TV show." But like at least like some people say like her acting just seems kind of weird, like she's talking like an adult even though she's so young. But I mean, she grows up in this crazy world. So
Yeah, she
I
had
forgive
to
it.
grow up. I mean, she is the lady of the whole
Yeah, and so
the whole place.
I
mean,
was confused if like Jorah P.S. if like Jorah was like her uncle or something, but they're cousins. So that means that if they're cousins, that means that her mother is the sister of Jorah's parents, which makes them cousins.
No, her mother would be Jorah's sister.
Yeah.
That would make them first cousins. But we don't know if they're first cousins or more distant cousins.
Yeah.
We don't know because they are never that clear.
And there's no like I don't think I mean maybe in the books there's a family tree, but it's good they at least they established that they're cousins.
Right.
They're not like brother and sister or something.
No,
you know?
and I never thought they were that because otherwise, I don't know why Jorah's father had taken the black. I don't know if they ever said so. Why? But it's weird that
I'm guessing he didn't commit crime. I'm guessing he did it for honor.
No. So he must have been like a younger brother. He wouldn't have been the heir and then gone and taken the black. So anyway, but I think poor Lyanna is not long for the world.
I hope not. Ed, whatever his last name is. 1, 2, 3. No, he's gonna die. Sorry, Ed.
Dolores Ed, by the way, who I realized I had been pronouncing it wrong. I always called him Dolores Ed because, I'm only an English teacher. I can't pronounce anything. But I looked it up because I was also very curious what it meant.
That's his full name or that's his nickname?
Well, no, it's his nickname. They call him Dolores Ed. And Ed with 2 D's, by the way, because, it is George Extra R. Martin who wrote these names.
It's got to be Luke with 3 Ks,
Right. So apparently he has that nickname. Dolores means very gloomy and sad.
I've watched Westworld.
So he gets
Dolores.
Dolores, right. No, spelled completely different.
Yeah, I got you.
Dolores Ed. He's Dolores Ed. So, yes, he is pretty gloomy.
But he's going to die.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Your name's too close to Ned. Ed. Sorry.
Right.
I don't think you're gonna...
sorry. Eddard and Neddard Stark.
I always like that, the whole thing of like the logic of G.R.R. Martin's world where it's like his name is Eddard Stark, but people call him Ned for short.
Yes, yeah, and all of the names tend to be things where he just left out one character of a better known name or added something extra.
It's like Dave of a D. It's like Dade.
Yeah, and then you have Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie's pretty.
Jamie. But yeah, the other names I think are very interesting. And I saw in one interview he said that even before the TV show, when the books came out, people started showing up at signings and stuff saying, "Oh, this is my little girl Daenerys." And so as a teacher, I'm just waiting for the first Daenerys to show up in my class.
Gotcha.
Yes. Okay.
It's weird because, like, do you remember the character who was, like, the annoying person who was, like, the lover of Ramsay named Miranda? But it's, like, a Y or whatever.
Yes.
So funny how that's all shakes out. Ghost, one of the last dire wolves. Yes. Please. If another dire wolf bites it, I'm going to be so mad. Or maybe he'll go off with Nymeria in the end, and they'll make another happy family, and it's all going to work out.
Oh, there's yes, that'll be great.
They're kind of related, so maybe maybe it is incest. Is it incest with the dogs?
It's no, actually, I don't know that concept exists in the animal kingdom.
This show's so messed up. Even the dogs are practicing incest.
Right. But I also, like I've said before, I'm not sure that it causes...
They're animals.
Within the universe of the show, I'm not sure that it causes problems.
Yeah, I don't think Jon Snow's going to find him and behead him for incest or hold him on trial in the Sept of Baelor.
It's not the same.
Here's a good one. The dragons. 1, 2, 3... No, please.
One of them.
One of them.
Drogon will survive.
Maybe Rhaegal, Will, and Jon will ride him after Dany falls.
Oh, could be.
I don't know.
Could be.
I've always loved the dragons' color schemes because like they've always been kind of light hints of like because like people say like Rhaegar is the green one. I'm like the green one. They always kind of look brown, but like you see like in the highlights of their wings and stuff.
Just like the eggs. The eggs were 3 different colors.
It's like Pokemon.
Gold, red, gold, and green, just like Karma Chameleon.
Oh yeah, Karma Chameleon.
That was not planned.
They wasn't planned. Dragons are so great. I love dragons. I love How to Train a Dragon. I don't want dragons to die.
I want one of those dragon eggs, but the only ones that exist are candles, and I don't want. I guess I could cut the wick off the top of it. So this is my dragon egg.
Yeah.
But the eggs are really cool.
I've always loved How to Train Your Dragon and stuff, and this is the one show where it's like in How to Train Your Dragon, for example, like a dragon will shoot fire, but then like the guy is all like cartoon Looney Tunes, like all burned out his face. But like in this show, people just get burned into ash,
It's
just like
ash,
Dracarys.
nothing more. Dracarys.
By the way, in the Dracarys like theme song that Danny's always had, the whole do you like that sound effect? That because like she did it with the cows too, where it's like you're not going to serve me, you're gonna die. And she pushed over the candle, whatever. It's like
Yes. I think it's. I would like to not answer that. I don't remember it well enough.
Yeah.
I guess to say.
just like just you can look back on any time and watch it again when like anyone shoots fire, like when the dragon does something cool. But I love it. It's like see like the bass drop of an awesome song. It's like here comes the bass drop.
I think I do remember, but it's been a long time since I have to go.
It's not as obvious as
I'm
I'm making it sound, but it's more like kind of like more of a musical theme kind of stinger.
But I do know that I love the songs from this show. Like I love the rain. Is it the Rains of Castamere?
Mm-hmm.
Or yes, I love
The Stark
that
theme,
song.
like the main like music that plays, is really good too.
Yes, yeah, but the Rains of Castamere, and maybe it's just because I heard it more because they play it and sing it a couple times.
It's like the only song in Westeros.
show.
That and the one Ed Sheeran wrote, and The Bear and the Maiden Fair, and Old Jenny and the Old Stones.
Yes,
That's like the 4 songs in Westeros.
Right, I have to download the Florence and the Machine version. Of Old Jenny, which 'cause
Next one, Theon. 1, 2, 3, dead. He's so dead.
So
Brad,
dead.
I'll protect you. I'll be your last line of
Goodbye,
defense.
Theon's redemption story. Never has a guy paid such a high price for redemption. He paid the iron price.
Pay the iron price. Yeah.
And
So
but
dead. He's
apparently
so-
has to pay more.
Like imagine if like Theon's the only one who survived. You know, like Theon's gonna die.
Theon
Theon's.
and Sansa maybe will be together on the Iron Throne with no heir though.
Yeah, unfortunately, maybe they can adopt. Grey Worm. 1, 2, 3, dead. No dead. All dead. Who cares? No cares. But Missandei. 1, 2, 3, dead. I guess.
Dead.
I mean,
think dead.
I'm not super
the
invested
fact that
at this point.
I don't care very much one way or the other is pretty sad and probably a bad commentary on
How dare
me.
you?
But
It's 2019. Just kidding. Okay. Beric Dondarrion. 1, 2, 3, dead. Yeah. After he brings the Hound back for Clegane, boy.
Right.
And gives him his flaming sword. The last thing on my notes here is like all the crypt stuff we already mentioned a few days ago. But I think it wraps it up. Anything else you need to say or want to say or predict?
Tormund, I will miss you.
Yeah, don't die. Maybe we'll be surprised.
Don't die. Maybe we will. Maybe he and Brienne will get married and have lots of little giant babies.
Have you ever seen Shaun of the Dead? With Sean Pegg, whatever his name is.
I plead the fifth because it is ridiculous that I haven't, but I haven't.
Well, like, there's a thing like where like his like chubby friend like becomes a zombie, but like he locks him in like the shed in the backyard and like still plays video games with him like as a zombie because like he's still kind of sentient. So maybe like Brienne keeps Tormund as a pet to show like her and Jamie's kids. I don't know.
Yeah, but she loves Jamie though.
Yeah,
but
I'm hoping too that like some sick like World War Z thing will happen where like Tormund gets turned into a white and like Brienne has to kill him, or it's like Brienne gets turned into a white. Like that's an intimidating zombie right there, you know?
Yes,
and she has armor on. Like it's gonna be hard to kill her.
I will leave you with one thought this is totally my own thought. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist out there somewhere, but I have been thinking this question for a while.
What does the fox say?
No. I'll do Carmen Chameleon all day long, but I am not doing that.
No going back.
No. What happened to Hodor?
Hodor. I guess he'll just come up as a zombie, and hopefully, like Jon or Bran or Sansa will see him, as opposed to Brienne's like, oh, these giants aren't that big. Slice him and cuts Hodor in half.
But if Hodor is one of the dead.
Yeah, I mean,
he would have to be, right?
It would make sense. I mean,
that doesn't mean we'll see him again, but if we did see him again, he would be dead.
Yeah, he would definitely. I mean, like that's zombie logic 101. Like I'm guessing he wasn't. I mean, like as we've kind of discussed like a few days ago, like if the Night King can make like bones like reassemble Iron Giant style or like Voltron style, then maybe he can make something like as fresh as Hodor come back. So That'll be sad, definitely.
Unless Hodor has some of that Benjen magic.
Ooh. What about Benjen? He was dead, but then he was killed again by a White Walker.
Yeah,
so
I think he's probably really dead. And I don't think we'll see Hodor again.
maybe Benjen's horse will come back again with him out on
Right,
it as a
here it
zombie.
comes, here it comes,
Zombie
and
horse.
He's twirling his light, whatever that weapon
That thing was
is.
so dumb.
But, okay,
Kinda
so
silly.
I'm just worried. But surely we won't see Hodor again. That would be horrible.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but there's gonna be a lot of things are gonna get a lot worse before they get better in this next few episodes.
I know. So I will need.
We didn't mention either, but John or Danny. I think Danny. They're gonna be on dragons too, but like I guess they're both gonna be on dragons. It's kind of assumed.
Yeah, I think probably so.
But I wouldn't be surprised if Danny got injured and then gives all of her power to Jon Snow. I don't know. I feel like that'd be kind of cool. But do you have anything that
I think
Jon might die?
that's right.
or-
I think that at the end of the episode when John and Danny they gave each other a little bit of a nod. I think that was because they were going to the dragons.
Yeah, but like
And-
they can't die because Jon still hasn't even given his freaking opinion about it at all.
Well, I know. Yeah,
It's annoying. Also, one theory I've heard about is maybe the Night King isn't there, so they can't win, and he's already flying down the King's Landing to burn everything to the ground.
Ooh.
I mean, the Night King is sentient, obviously, but is he smart enough to be like, okay, I'm not going to win a fight with two-on-one dragons, you know?
Well, he has some sort of psychic thing going, obviously, like Bran.
With, like, his people, or with, like, his, like, generals and stuff? What do you mean?
Well, I don't know if he can maybe see things that are happening the way Bran can or not. But he could see Bran when Bran was not really there, when Bran was just doing his wargy thing.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, it's a smart plan of the Night King if he decides, like, hey, I'm the only weakness to my army, so, army, you attack Winterfell and win, and I'll be in King's Landing away and safe. That way I won't die. Because it does seem like a pretty tropey thing for, like, the Night King to face Jon Snow in single combat when... like, he's the one risk that he's going to lose.
Yeah, yes, it definitely does. But the Night King, I guess, is going to have to face Bran in some sort of psychic
X-Men battle or
right,
something.
Yes.
It's gonna be
so
let me just say, it's going to be so dumb if the Night King, like, turns his camera and is like, oh, I've had a crazy time in Westeros. Like, it's going to be weird to see him talk. Like, I don't think like, a hurricane doesn't talk. I don't want to see the Night King talk, you know?
No, I don't think he's going to talk. And I think of all the things that might happen that nobody has thought of, that one will not. Definitely it's not going to go Deadpool.
The Night King talking?
Night King is not going to go full on Deadpool. And so, yeah, that is, I mean, he might talk. I can't, if I could imagine a voice for the Night King, though, it would be Beric Dondarrion's voice. And they've already used that. Because it comes out of Beric Dondarrion.
But I want, I want to hear like a Middle Earth, like, you shall.
No,
like the Ring speaking or whatever, but.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see. But I just don't think we're going to hear from him. But like I said, I'm always
Maybe he'll
wrong.
scream, a Nazgul scream, like a Nazgul
Oh,
scream.
yeah,
whatever.
that, yes. Like Lord Umber.
Like, things get real silly real fast if he, like, he's like, oh, Bran, I finally have you now in my clutches. Like, it's going to be...
It's not a Bond movie.
I know, but you never know with this show. But I think it wraps it up for this is kind of our big prediction episode before, like, the stuff hits the fan.
Yes.
In 2 days. But anything else you want to say at all?
I am good. Thank you very much.
I imagine we're going to have a lot to talk about this Monday or this Wednesday.
Yes, we will.
I mean, maybe it'll just be most like fighting and battle. So hopefully we won't have that much to discuss because it will be like a huge like battle. So we'll be like, man, it sucks that Arya killed Tormund, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm just going to be crying.
Oh, we didn't talk about Gendry. Is Gendry going to die?
Oh, yeah.
Some people say that Arya's virginity was her armor, like horror movie style. So like now she's.
Really? And that was all that was protecting her?
I don't know. Like that's kind of like the classic '80s horror movie. Like the lovers always die first, or whatever.
Yes,
or the
and it is a
African American
horror
guy always
movie
dies
trope.
first. So.
Right. That's interesting though. But I don't think so because, well, I mean, just for 1,000 reasons, I don't think so. But
Arya won't die. You mean, or
that her virginity was
yeah, that's a
her.
fan theory, I think. But.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's I don't think so, but it is a pretty common kind of thing, and it's also kind of, even though it's a horror movie trope, it's a magical kind of idea too, in a lot of cases. But
Romance is magic.
oh yeah, but it's also a very patriarchal idea.
Yeah, I guess so.
And
Like,
that would not go well with Arya's development and her journey.
like
and
John like cuts off her hair. Like, shame, you had
Right,
sex out of marriage.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
not gonna
this-
happen, obviously.
not
Arya's not
gonna
gonna die of
work.
chlamydia or whatever,
Right.
or like whatever Gendry was had with the Red Witch or whatever.
No, he
She was
wasn't
old.
with her.
Yes, she
he
was.
wasn't. He said to Arya, he was
okay.
not with her. No,
She's old. You don't know what she has. You don't know what she's been through.
God, thank you very much. And what is your test grade?
It reminded me of that scene when John actually had to talk to the Maester and say, like, hey, Maester, can I get an extension on that essay I need to turn in? Because I might, I relate to that, you know? I really do relate to that.
Don't just say old people. There's no telling what she has.
No,
my
just like,
God.
but she's like 4,000 years old. Like, we saw her.
So she's really old. All right.
She could have whatever. Like, she could have, like, she could be patient zero for, like, a zombie virus, you know? Because she's old.
That's very true. That's very true. She could, but I don't think that she did. It's Bronn you have to worry about with that because of what Qyburn said.
The pox will get to her in the ear.
Yes.
Which one?
Yeah. Which one was that? He looked very worried. Which one was it?
Almost a spit take there.
Yeah. Yes.
Also, it's weird that, like, the intro is awesome, by the way, but the intro had a zoom through King's Landing just like last week, basically. But it's the first time ever in Game of Thrones where they show two locations on the map, but they didn't go to King's Landing at all, which has never happened before, you know, because the whole point of the intro is, like, to show where certain characters are at, you know?
Yes, and to show, who's, like, they had the pike on it only when things were going on at the pike. And it also changed, though, like, with the Army of the Dead's progress, because last week, the area around Last Hearth, there were just tiles there kind of moving, coming up to
And they got kind of closer
and
this
now,
episode, I think, yeah.
and now they're completely blue around Last Hearth. So you're seeing where the Army of the Dead is walking.
I think wraps up, though, for this week.
Yep.
We'll see you next time. I'm Drew.
I'm Becky.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.